did it come here in Toronto? How did we get to this? Well, to make sense of this senseless act of violence, we need to take a closer look at Toronto in 1933.
That's a bit of what it sounded like at a recent performance of the immersive play about the riot at Christie Pits. The play's performed outdoors on a Toronto baseball diamond in the very same park where the actual riot happened 90 years ago this summer. The actors used the infield as their stage, and the audience, we sit close in the bleachers along the third baseline. The students who get bussed in for the field trip from various high schools, they sit on the grass behind home plate. For the next 90 minutes, the actors show the students what it was like living in Toronto in that tense summer of 1933.
Our gracious King, well, it's the sons of Abraham.
That is enough. Well, what's going on here?
Nothing, officer. We're just doing our civic duty to keep the beach clean.
This is a public beach and they're trying to kick us off. They're the ones who are putting up all the signs.
Signs?
No Jews allowed.
The summer that culminated in the famous August 16th Christie Pits Riot that broke out after a baseball game between a Jewish team called Harvard Playground and a mostly Christian team from a nearby church. But the riot wasn't about the final score. It was about antisemitism and racism and hate for immigrants and how the Jews and their allies from the immigrant community fought back with sticks and fists and pipes. And just a few years later, they would do the real fighting wearing Canadian Army uniforms in the Second World War against Hitler. The creators behind the new play hope that by showcasing the age-old hatred of Jews and newcomers in 1933 Canada, students will make the connection to modern hatred that exists today and take action when they see it.
There's a couple goals. Number one, the most important thing was to show all the students and people who don't know about the riot what it was and how it happened in Toronto and how quickly it can happen again. And so we want to really make it clear that we live in a wonderful, diverse city and we're grateful for it, but that we also have to remember these things happen. And so we have to continually find ways to work together.
I'm Ellin Bessner, and this is what Jewish Canada sounds like for Wednesday, June the 14th, 2023. Welcome to the CJN Daily, a podcast of the Canadian Jewish News, sponsored by Metropia. In this scene from the play, you hear the teenage actor playing the role of Joey Rosenbaum being hassled by a local bully.
You Jews should go home, but you don't. Instead, you come over here, you take all our jobs. That's what my dad said.
That's not true.
You call my dad a liar?
No.
Huh?
No.
The creator of the play based it on his own family's personal history, although Sam Rosenthal did change a couple of names, and he fictionalized some parts too. But his grandfather actually operated a drugstore in the area, just east of here, in the Jewish neighborhood at Bloor and Manning. And his real father, Joe, who was born just after the riot, remembers what it was like when it was the Depression and jobs were scarce. And there was plenty of support in Canada for Nazi leader Adolf Hitler's ideas, which included blaming Jews for the world's economic troubles.
I got to know all the boys, the Christie Pits gang and so on, so I got along fine with them. But for many people, it was pretty tough. The Jewish crowd had a tough time. I mean, how would you like to walk into a store and see a sign saying Jews and dogs not allowed?
At the climax of the play, the actors recreate the fateful baseball game.
2 outs with 2 men on base, and at bat, the Stinky Davis in the batter's box. The entire crowd leans in to watch. Yes!
And the incident that sparked the riot, they unfurled a large sheet with a swastika painted on it, same as the notorious Pit Gang did on August the 16th. Although the directors chose not to use the full Nazi symbol, just a sheet painted with red and black lines, but you still get the message.
Swastika!
They got the swastika! Get out!
Right away, a number of Jewish Harvard fans go after the banner carriers. A long line of trucks arriving from College and Spadina.
Not just Jewish men. I see other faces from the neighborhood. Dominic and a bunch of his Italian friends jump out from the back of a truck. They're shouting and flailing its fists and boots and baseball bats. Up on the streets, People are leaving their homes to join in the fighting. Store owners, workers, regular folks. They're punching and kicking, pushing and shoving. In the middle of the madness, I feel sick. A dread I've never felt before. Surely someone's going to get killed tonight.
That was going on. I mean, if you can imagine a riot in a city going on for hours, people beating the shit out of each other, I mean, it's unimaginable.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
unimaginable.
The initiative for busing in 5,000 high school students to see the play over 6 weeks came from the Toronto District School Board, in particular from its Jewish Heritage Committee, in close collaboration with the Italian Heritage Team. The idea was to make what the students are learning in their textbooks come to life because, while in grade 8 and 10 they do cover the Holocaust and other forms of historic racism, the story of one of the country's worst racial events that happened right in their own backyard is much less well known. The play's artistic director, Sam Rosenthal, says he's receiving excellent feedback from the students who see it.
I think they want to know more about, did anyone get killed, and what happened to the mayor, and they want to know basically, like the characters in a great book or a movie, what happened. So what happened to the stories? What happened to your dad and his family growing up, and those kind of things. We know the students are enjoying it because they're quiet, they're engaged, and they're asking a lot of questions afterwards. So I'm really pleased.
I spoke with some of these grade 10 students from Port Credit Secondary School in Mississauga after the play ended. They were doing some deep reflection on what they'd just seen.
So I'm a reporter with the Canadian Jewish News. I just wanted to know if you could tell me what your key takeaway was from this.
Sam Cranford. Probably the end when they were because they talked about how the message was when you're presented with the moment, will you choose to make a change? So I thought that was probably the biggest takeaway of the play.
Have you ever had an experience of discrimination?
Me personally, no, but I've seen it before. So
what was that?
Just kind of general, racism stuff.
Anybody else want to give me a takeaway? What struck you?
My name is Christian Rinaldi. My takeaway was that how an entire city like Toronto could be affected by the effects of segregation, and how lots of different groups were affected, not just the Jews specifically, but like they said, the Italians and then everyone else, and how it all kind of comes together, and how one community can really be affected by something like this.
Do you know any Jewish people?
No, sorry, I don't think I could really name one off. Sarah Pearson. Yeah, one of our friends.
Somebody in the school?
Yeah, one of the...
Is she here?
No.
Uh-huh. And what about yourself? Thank you. What about yourself? What's your key takeaway?
My name is Dane Boschman. I learned that something small like a baseball game can explode into something really big and have really big consequences. And that there's a lot of causes that you don't see as a bystander.
Well, there's been a lot of sports anti-Semitism. Shall I mention Kanye and Kyrie Irving, and the last year it's been double down on Jews and stuff. It's been in popular culture, right? So I'm sure you're aware of that, no?
Well, I was aware of that, but it's weird to see that something that was that I thought was just a baseball game originally, and there's other factors that all piled into it, and that caused it to explode like that. You don't usually get to see those.
So what did anybody else want to weigh in? Yeah? Because I don't know what your school prepared you for this. This is, you have to go, right? This is mandatory, right? But did you prepare for this or no?
No, I signed a form and then I got sent here.
You haven't learned? Have you guys learned about the Holocaust?
Oh yeah, we did.
Uh-huh.
We did. Yeah.
Right. So, did you want to say? Sorry, your name?
Oh, my name's Eva Puskaric. I'm 16. I thought it was really cool because we learn about it so much in history, and I feel in English we also read a lot of books about the Holocaust and everything.
Anne Frank. Have you heard about Anne Frank?
Yeah, the diaries. We didn't read them, but I definitely heard about them. And I think it was cool to see Canadian, in Toronto, and how everything played out, because sometimes we just learn about it in other parts of the world, but it's cool to learn in Canada how everyone was affected here.
I don't know if you realize last week the Toronto police came out with a statistic. They do an annual story of how many people get hate crimes, and Jews, LGBTQ, and blacks are the highest hate crimes in Toronto. Jews are number one, even though there's only 180,000 Jews in Toronto. They're the number one, and then LGBTQ and black are the number two. So I just wondered if you knew that. And
I didn't know that.
did you want to say something?
Sure.
Your name?
I'm 16. My name's Ben Young.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's cool that we learn a lot about like what was happening in Europe and stuff, but it's cool to see like in Canada. Like I didn't know about like the swastika club or like any of that was happening here really. So it's interesting.
You haven't seen any memes on social media about like swastikas and stuff and neo-Nazi stuff?
No,
anybody?
Well, like, I see a couple of them, but like yeah, that's true.
Has there been any racism or whatever at your school that's had to be dealt with, or
we just had a little bit of an event where it was so we had a national culture day, so they had flags all up. And which flag? They ripped down a flag. They ripped down the
Israeli flag.
Yeah. The
What?
Israeli flag.
Really?
Yeah. No, they like tore it, and then
who? When was this?
We
This
don't
is
know.
actually a big
We don't know.
story.
It was a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
At the Port Credit Secondary School?
Yeah, they tore
What was it
down-
for? There's Jewish kids at your school?
Yeah.
And they had like a table or
We
something?
had like flags for everybody, and
all
for every
the
culture,
cafeteria.
and we got every culture. We had food from each culture, and yeah, you paid $5 to get in, and you could eat whatever like from every culture. It was like cool.
Kind of like a cultural buffet.
Yeah, mosaic, yeah.
And they made an announcement that said it got torn down, I think, and they replaced it right away.
I'm very upset about that, actually. It's actually a big story, and I don't know. Did you want to say something?
It was on the same day that a Holocaust survivor came to speak to the kids
Who was
about
that?
their experiences. His name was Ellie Gotts.
Ellie Gotts, yeah, of course, we know him very
Same
well.
day. It was the same
Did
day.
he know?
No, he didn't know.
So was there any... Did you guys hear Ellie Gotts speak?
I heard him.
He's
Yeah,
amazing.
we all
Yeah,
went.
he's like amazing. Did you want to tell me your name?
Jessica DiMedeiros.
Are you the principal or
No, I'm a history teacher at the school.
Oh, so you teach them the Holocaust, World War
Yeah,
II,
yeah,
all this stuff,
yeah.
and then what was the preparation that you had to do for this show?
We were invited. We got an email that it was all expenses paid, that we were invited to come see a play to commemorate the 90th anniversary. And so we were like, yeah, absolutely. And me and another history teacher got it all organized and brought the kids down. And
really
it looks
important.
like they had a nice day.
Sources say the tearing of the Israeli flag actually happened on May 5th. It was done as a political protest. I've seen a photo of the flag. The school did replace it, and officials sent out a notice to the school community condemning what happened as antisemitism. We've reached out to the Peel Region District School Board. They haven't responded by deadline, but promise they will give us a statement shortly. And that's what Jewish Canada sounds like for this episode of the CJN Daily, sponsored by Metropia. Integrity, community, quality, and customer care. Today's listener shout-out goes to Thelma Lesser in Montreal. And we'll end with a little more from the Christie Pits Riot play. The last day to see it is Friday, June the 16th, although Rosenthal hopes he can stage it once again on the actual 90th anniversary on August the 16th, and he would love for it to go on tour next year. It's free for the public to attend. We put links in our show notes to find out more. Special thanks to my colleague Alex Rose from the CJN for some of the audio.
Gentile all the time. And by Gentile, I am referring to the 80% white British descendants of Protestants. As for the Italian Catholics, the Greek Orthodox, and us Jews, we are second-class citizens, the lot of us, which many Protestants take pains to remind us.
Whoa! Hey! Break it up!
To some, we are merely tolerated. To others, well, to others we are not welcome. And we are definitely not welcome north of Harvard Street, which is where we are right now, Christie Pits, the land of the Gentiles. And so, when the mostly Jewish players on the Harvard team play here, they're entering enemy territory. Now, enemy, that's a strong word, I grant you that. But there is more you need to know about this story. Yes, it is a once upon a time story. It's also a true story. August 16th.